think Saquon, and this is not necessarily an original point, but the distinction here between, is this really exciting for Eagles fans? Absolutely. You should be excited about the possibility. And we talked about like the upside that this brings to the offense and how much more important the offense is. And I do think that this was probably the one place in free agency that they could have made the biggest delta at a position that they were willing to sign versus like, what are the expectations? And I think the difference between the Bryce Huff signing and the Saquon Barkley signing is with Bryce Huff, I think you are paying for projection and what you expect to happen.
Yep.
And with Saquon, you are paying for past production.
Absolutely.
And you just look at the history of guys who have had as many touches as he has had and what they do after that, and it is really dire. And since 2010, 21 running backs with at least 1,300 touches in their first 6 seasons. Saquon Barkley has almost 1,500 touches. Of those guys, so take Saquon Barkley out and take Josh Jacobs out because he's only played 5 seasons. The 19 other running backs have combined for just 6 total seasons in which they had a 1,000-yard rushing season after year 6.
Yeah.
2 of those, LaShawn McCoy. 2 of those, Derrick Henry. One of them, Christian McCaffrey, a year ago, and one of them, Joe Mixon, a year ago. Like, there is a real chance that Saquon Barkley is like dust at some point soon. Now, this is an important pro scouting thing. Like, as they're evaluating him and projecting that he still has this left in his body, like. There is every reason to think that if you could take Saquon Barkley out of this terrible offensive situation that he was in the beginning of his career and put him into the Eagles offense, he would be electric and would totally change what they do on offense. But hoping that is still who he is over the next 2 seasons, it's a bit of a wish cast. And like, I get why they did it. I totally see how they talked themselves into it. But I think just from a clear-headed standpoint, and I think this is not a surprise to them. Like, they know these numbers. They understand that there's a chance that this could totally backfire. I just think it is unlikely that he is going to live up to this contract. Not even from the money doesn't materially affect what they can do. I just think it's going to be a reach for him to be what he's being paid to be.
I have a lot of thoughts on this. I just want to interject real quick. Just there's some news here.
Oh, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry because it's a good
point.
No,
please.
This is according to Adam Kaplan, who's reporting for PFN 365 on this. The Eagles are bringing back Braden Mann on a 2-year, $4.2 million deal. I couldn't interject with that.
I mean,
I
think that could have waited for the conversation. Okay. A pause in the conversation.
This is a free agent frenzy. I wanted to we don't need to talk about Braden Mann right now. I just wanted to bring that up so we're not oblivious to the news. That's all.
I think
Okay.
I think you could have said, oh, by the way, the Eagles re-signed Braden Mann. We'll get to that in a second, and then continue the conversation.
Okay, so back to the Saquon thing. You're absolutely right. And this is something that I want people to subscribe to the Die Hard tier to read our grades. But something I wrote is I don't object to paying for running backs, but I want to pay for year 4 to year 7, or year 4 to year 6, rather, than year 7 to year 8 or year 7 to year 9, right? And that's my concern with this. I really like the player. I really like the fit, but I like the player based on what he's done. And the Eagles are paying for past performance here. And you look, since he came into the league, he's one of the top 7 in the league in touches. And the 6 guys ahead of him, some of them you don't want playing anymore or are not featured backs anymore, including guys like Dalvin Cook, for instance, right? So running back's a position where that cliff comes at you pretty quickly. And when you fall off that cliff, it's often not gradual. It's often you fall right down, right? And so the Eagles are racing against a workload curve here. And if they're going into this clear-eyed and they're saying that if they can get a year or 2, they're hoping for 2 based on the structure, but if they can get a really strong year where he's Christian McCaffrey-esque, where he's one of the best players or he's one of the best running backs in the league, and they can make a big run this year, then that'll be worth it. I also think they probably looked at it like the delta between what running backs are being paid and what they're paying Barkley. As was it Diana Rossini who said that the Eagles made an offer to DeAndre Swift? There was some,
yeah.
So that the Eagles were
made on effort.
Yeah, or Jeremy Fowler maybe. But the Eagles were in on so they had to have a sense of what Swift was going to get paid. So Swift is at $8 million a year, and you see these running backs making $8 million a year. And if they're saying, like, all right, if you pay $3-4 million more per year for Barkley, I thought the whole running back market was going to be depressed, and I thought you'd be able to sign a starting guy for $5 million. That hasn't been the case so far, right? So that's where I look at this and I say, I think the Eagles paid too much for a running back going into year 7. I will say that. I think they are paying for past performance, but I also think that if you want to get like a top half of the league running back, much less top of the league running back, but top half of the league running back, you're paying $8+ million a year as opposed to $4 to $5 million, and that might have factored in. So this is a roundabout way of saying if you're going to pay 8 for Swift, maybe you pay 12 for Barkley.
Sure, I get the reasoning behind it all.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense. We've talked about why I think that they did need to prioritize the offense. I just think like there is a real chance that he's not going to be who he has looked like even over the past couple seasons.
And that'll be a major blow for the Eagles, right? Because they are what they're acquiring here is someone who steps in and is one of the 3 best running backs in the league from day one and into probably day 600, right? Because you want to have 2 years of this.
We all silly like the mayor.